TMI on the cover. The latest from our daily newsletter at podnews.net. The October issue of the Podcast Sessions magazine was released, free, focusing on podcasting in Africa. Cover stars Lydia KM and Marugi Munyi are hosts of The Messy In Between, a podcast about life as it is. We link to a download link for the entire magazine in our show notes and our newsletter at podnews.net. On Air LA Annex has announced Jason Derulo and Alexandra Shipp as the Thursday night headliners. It's the annual West Coast edition of New York City's influential On Air Fest and takes place in early November. YouTube continues to roll out podcasts globally and has added a podcast homepage in Australia at youtube.com/podcasts. We're into what it looks like today, and we're expecting more countries to get podcasts in YouTube later this week. In Canada, the CRTC has published myths and facts about Bill C-11, the Online Streaming Act. TWiT podcasts were added to an advertising block list used by Eero and Piehole, rendering them temporarily unplayable. We've seen that behaviour affect other shows too. We've technical details coming up in the tech stuff. Student organisation the Black Snapper International Film Festival has launched the Black Snapper International Audio Competition. If you're a student and use some great audio in English, it's free to enter. You've until Sunday. Sonant and Podder announced a partnership combining Sonant's content analysis with Podder's demographic data. Spreaker is building an uptime monitor for the podcast industry. Pod Uptime isn't yet officially launched, but seems to be testing major podcast hosts and tracking prefixes. And we also link to the host of Generally Spooky History, who talks about getting into the in-flight entertainment on British Airways, and Red Circle, who suggests embedding your podcast for more downloads, and we've a list of some embedded players you might want to use too. In People News, Crooked Media has announced a number of new executive hires. We've more details linked in our show notes and our newsletter at podnews.net. In the tech stuff, want to make your show notes look as lovely in the Spotify app as you can? Well, we link to Spotify's formatting notes today. Bold and italic are only supported if you host with Spotify for podcasters for some reason. Spotify only supports HTTPS links, by the way, not HTTP ones. If you're looking for automated ways to link to podcasts and episodes on a variety of players, then we'll point you to Nathan Gathwright's podcast platform links, which is quite handy. And in your app, how can you spot if a download has been blocked by an ad blocking service? Well, normally it'll be blocked by ad blockers like Piehole, NextDNS or Control-D, but because of the way that these services interface with podcasters, they kill the whole download. So you could see if the DNS has resolved to 0.0.0.0, which is the standard for Piehole and Control-D, and then give the user a message, or you could then force a DNS lookup with a known DNS server like Google's 8.8.8.8. And in podcast news, if it's difficult to find balance in today's fast-paced world, Spiritual Mixtape is new from This Is Distorted, dedicated to health, wellness and spirituality. It's hosted by Daisy Mack, who burnt out in an entertainment company in LA and discovered a change in life for the better, which she now wants to share with us all. Uncomfortable Conversations with Josh Zepps has hit 3 million downloads, and to celebrate, he'll be undertaking a live podcast tour next year and expanding into video on December the 1st. The show forces loyal, engaged, educated listeners to consider unpopular opinions, and if you recognise Josh Zepps from somewhere, it's probably when he told Joe Rogan that, putting it politely, he was talking nonsense about vaccines. Bossy with Tara and Katie is new from Morning Brew, a podcast tailored to women looking to grow their businesses and financial wealth. It's hosted by Katie Gatti and Tara Reid. And now more than ever, people are questioning what they do for work and are looking for ways to create their dream career. So I Quit My Day Job has joined Australia's 9 podcast this month for its 5th season. Each week, Catherine Mahoney speaks to a different person who has quit their jobs and followed their heart. And that's the latest from our newsletter. To read all the stories and subscribe, we're at podnews.net.